Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are doing a bit of coverage on Reinhardt. So we're going to cover three main topics. We're going to cover corners because they're absolutely critical for Reinhardt's play. We're going to cover fire strikes and how to use them, and we're going to go into shield use. And both of those are informed by corners, both fire strikes and shield use, so let's start with corners. So the first thing that we're going to get advantage-wise with corners is that holding a corner as Reinhardt gives you the first swing. So if you're here and you are, let's pretend, playing into a mirror Reinhardt, you stand here, you can position your Reinhardt behind this wall where you can't be discorded, shot, etc., and you can swing into the open space. And that's a pretty big deal because especially on narrow chokes, it can mean that a Reinhardt, if they want to get around and swing at you, potentially has to walk into your swing. Now they can walk over here and then you don't get the first swing, but this is still something where you're taking away half of their choke. You're making them go over here, and making them go over here still does give you an advantage that we'll get into later on down our list. So to start with here, we're going to go, hey, playing Reinhardt, holding the corner gets us the first swing. Excellent. So the second thing it does for us, and this is probably pretty obvious, is it preserves shield. So let's go saves shield. And this is pretty great, saving shield here, because what happens when we save shield is we go, hey, we're here, we do not have to use our shield. Our backline can still spread out as they want, use their own natural cover. We can have a McCree here, a Hanzo up here, a Farah up here, whatever we want. They can do what they want, and they can use natural cover. But we as Reinhardt are not using up any of our shield as the opposing team, be it Reinhardt, be it Orisa, be it Sigma, I don't care, is having to use their resources up. Let's just treat it as Reinhardt because the mirror is obvious, is having to use their shield up to advance. They're getting shot at by people using natural cover, and you, as the defending Reinhardt, are not having to use up any shield. And that becomes a big deal later in the battle when you want your shield to stabilize. So we're looking at this and we're going, hey, they had to give up 1,000, 600, 1,200, their entire thing. They had to spend resources to get up here in the form of their shield, whereas you controlling it did not. And that's huge because then you have it for other things. So moving on to our next thing here, what the corner does for us is it clears discords. Yes, this is a big enough deal to warrant its own point. If there is a Zen on the opposing team, that Zen can discord you right now, but can't discord your Reinhardt when your Reinhardt is behind this corner. Can't do it. If your Reinhardt peeks for a fire strike, gets discorded, and then goes back, the discord falls off. Not having a discord on you when you're trading Reinhardts and not having that discord on you for that first swing, remember we talked about that, so the attacking Reinhardt comes through here to try to battle us. This defending Reinhardt with the corner cannot get the discord on him if he's playing the corner properly. So he's totally safe. He gets that 30% advantage if there's mirrored Zens, or maybe there's mirrored Annas where there's purples, doesn't really matter. Let's pretend there's mirrored Zens. He gets that damage advantage from the discord, and that is amazing. For those of you that played during the GOAT meta, remember how that worked. That discord was so important that Zen got run instead of Moira. It's that big a deal when you're Reinhardts and when your teams are trading through Reinhardts. So being back here on this corner where the attacking Zen can't get the discord on you until they're up here is absolutely huge in terms of discord advantage. So clearing discord advantage, however you want to think about that, by having these corners, you can at will clear the discord by going, I'll just wait behind this corner for 3 seconds. Absolutely huge. So let's move on here. And then we hinted at this, but the fourth thing that we get into is our backline advantage. Okay, so what does backline advantage mean? Well, what we touched on earlier is that if we're here, our backline gets to spread out, use natural cover, do all those things. That's great. In this particular case, their backline potentially has to funnel up through a choke, which is great for the defending team. But the other thing it does is if this Reinhardt comes up here, turns the corner to fight our Reinhardt, our team's backline gets to shoot at the Reinhardt, pressure him, pressure his shield sooner than this team's backline gets to shoot at Blue's Reinhardt. Again, pretend Blue is tucked just a touch back further here. They get to go, hey, yeah, that's great. We can't shoot at this Reinhardt. We literally cannot shoot at the Reinhardt. The only thing we can do is support our Reinhardt with abilities, heals, etc. We can't put damage pressure onto the defending Reinhardt because he has this corner. Well, that's super annoying that we can't put damage pressure on that. On the flip side, this Reinhardt that's attacking, as soon as he comes up here to attack, the entire team has pressure on him, which is great. Now, the attacking team can mitigate this potentially by going, okay, let's rotate our backline up here. And remember when we talked about how, the Reinhardt can stay away from the Reinhardt so that he can't swing in? He can rotate out here with his backline. Well, that's still really not good for a couple reasons. One is this still costs the attacking team more in the rotation because the defending team does get to shoot at their Reinhardt a little bit earlier, even if they do this swing wide rotation that we're effectively talking about here. And it also lets this Reinhardt go, okay, well, if you're going to rotate your backline here, I am going to take my step forward. Yes, I'll get discorded. Yes, your backline will get to shoot at me. But your backline is right here rotating up with you so that they were relevant, so that they could shoot at him. And that means he gets to hit giant cleaves on 3, 4, 5 people, which, the attacking Reinhardt is not doing in return because the defending backline gets to spread out, use the natural cover, all that jazz. So those are the really big advantages. Let me just show those real quick. Those are the really big advantages that we get by using cover, by playing around cover, by going, hey, we got our first swing from behind the corner. We don't spend any shield. We get to clear discords, and we get the backline advantage where our backline gets to act first, and if their backline tries to rotate through, we get to run it over with giant cleaves. Just in case some of you are thinking I've been saying defending does not necessarily mean, these guys are attackers because they come from this spawn, and these guys are defenders because they come from this spawn. It's about who has control of the point. If Red had won the first team fight, and the card is back here, Red can push up and put their Reinhardt on this corner, and they're still defending, holding this corner and all that jazz, and Blue has to attack into it, because if they don't, the cart gets from here up to here for free. So the attacking Reinhardt can set this up after one fights two, and that's really important. So that's going to cover sort of the basics of corners. And the reason I wanted to cover corners first, even though it's not an ability, it might not be the most interesting thing, it's transformational to how you play Rein if you understand it, but we did want to go ahead and cover that first, is that we are going to now move on to things that are informed by our corners. So let's start here. Let's start here with Fire Strikes. And Fire Strikes, the first thing that I'm going to say about them is, unsurprisingly, that you should do them from corners. Yeah, I'm just not going to settle for that. Let's try that again. I know, my handwriting's bad, but I won't accept it being quite that bad. Corners. Corner fire strikes are acceptable. There's really only 3 or so types of acceptable fire strikes, and corner fire strikes are one of them. The reason that we're paused on this screen right here is in fact because this is a Reinhardt doing a corner fire strike. This is exactly what we are looking for. So here, our Reinhardt is here. He starts his Fire Strike animation. He steps out because there's a wind up to Fire Strike. He starts his Fire Strike animation, steps out and aims and throws it quickly, and then peeks back behind the corner. That's really good. That means that he can't, if he gets discorded, it's no big deal because he's back behind cover. If he takes a bunch of damage, he can even bail out early and go back behind the cover. Say, forget it, I don't want this Fire Strike, and go back behind the cover. And it puts him with a lot more safety. As long as he's not doing it when another Reinhardt is standing right here, which he shouldn't do. Don't do your fire strikes when another Reinhardt is standing on the other side of the corner. He's not going to get pinned. He's not going to get shattered. Those are things that happen to you when you do fire strikes out in the open. So fire strikes from corners save us from getting pinned, save us from getting shattered, assuming we make sure the other Rein isn't right here. They go ahead and make sure that if we get discorded, we can clear it real easily. They minimize the amount of damage that we're going to take. And this is really important because Fire Strike does 100 damage, and it's a relatively slow-moving, easy-to-dodge projectile. Some of you may disagree with that, but it's a projectile. You can dodge it. You can see it coming. It's not that scary. So to deal with that, we have to go, okay, that's 100 damage versus what could get traded back to Reinhardt when he sends out a Fire Strike. Well, most of you will notice Reinhardts regularly take more than 100 damage when they Fire Strike, and going, hey, you're taking 200, 250, 300 damage to get out a Fire Strike that maybe hits one person. Yeah, it can pierce and hit more, but probably hits one person. We'll call that an average return, and we'll call an average return for sending out a Fire Strike in the open 200 damage. That's just a bad trade on its face. Now, it's not absolutely awful because you get into 100 relative health and all that jazz, and 100 health to a squishy is perhaps worth more than 200 to the Reinhardt, but it's not a great trade, especially because it means your Reinhardt in good situations against good teams will get discorded, will get purpled, all those things. They see that your Reinhardt is doing the fire strike. You can take a lot of damage in exchange for that fire strike, and it's just not worth it unless you fulfill one of a couple conditions, and corners are one of those conditions. We throw our fire strike, we go back behind the corner. If a Discord orb got on us, no big deal. If we took 100, 200 damage, not a big deal. We can get healed back up behind the corner, and we're not just having to hold our shield up for 5-6 seconds hoping to get healed back up after throwing that fire strike. And again, holding that shield up is never going to clear the Discord. We're going to have to get back behind cover to do that. Okay, so now let's move on. And the next thing that I want to cover is going to be finishing blows. So another time that it's okay to do fire strikes is for finishing blows. What do I mean by that? Well, that's not too crazy. What we mean by finishing blows is if you're swinging into a squishy as Reinhardt, you can swing. Your first swing is going to come from the right, so you'd swing from the right, you'd swing back from the left, and then partway through your second swing onto a squishy, as soon as it's clicked for damage, so when it's coming from the right, you swing into it to get the damage. When it's coming from the left, you swing back into it to get the damage. And as soon as your swing has come from the left and is connected at all, you can cancel into a fire strike animation. And during your windup, you can recenter your aim on the target to hit them with the fire strike to get an elimination faster than you'd be able to get that third swing off. It can also be useful because they're trying to flee as you've hit them with the second swing, all that good stuff. So a finishing blow can be worth it. Yes, it gives you some of the same vulnerabilities it gives you the vulnerabilities you'd always have during a fire strike, and you can't cancel out of it to shield. You can't cancel out of it to go, hey, I took too much damage, I'm getting shattered. You can't cancel out of it or any of that stuff, but doing it for the finishing blow has a high enough upside that becomes worth it, and the fight is generally broken down in such a way that you go, yes, this is something I am willing to do. Another fire strike that has a high enough upside to warrant it, even though there's still very much some danger involved in it, is the window fire strike. Window fire strikes, 200 damage fire strikes can one-shot squishies. Yes, there's danger to doing it. If you do a window fire strike in the open, that's okay. Especially if you time it right as the window's coming up, that's going to be okay. If you can do it from a corner, even better. But if you do it in the open, or if you go, hey, there's a window here and I have fire strike up and I think I can hit something, yeah, it's going to be worth it from a risk-reward ratio to go ahead and throw your fire strike through that window if you think there's a squishy that you can one-shot with it. So what we're looking to do with our fire strikes is understand the risk-reward ratio on a fire strike, just out in the open here, one Reinhardt throwing a fire strike at another Reinhardt or at anyone isn't going to be worth. There's too much damage potential from Discords, from Widows, from Pharahs, from Soldiers, from McCrees. There's too much crud that a Reinhardt can take in the modern era of Overwatch. Don't just throw your fire strikes in the open unless you've got increased upside. Be that, hey, it's going to be a finishing blow, be that it's through a window, those things. But you can go, hey, I can still get value out of this cooldown by throwing it from behind corners and going back behind corners. Okay, so that brings us to the last thing that we are going to cover today, ability-wise, which is your shield. This is really important. This is really important. I cannot emphasize this enough. The shield belongs to you. You own the shield. It's not for your team, it's for you. I know that's controversial. I do. But it is your shield. If your team happens to hop along for the ride, that's totally fine. If you go, I'm going from A to B, and your team goes, yeah, we want to hop along for the ride, that's great. But you'll remember when I was talking about holding corners, I said, hey, hold this corner, and your team can use natural cover. They can. You are not a firing platform. You are not standing here with your shield up for your team to maybe decide to get behind and shoot at the opposing team. That's not what you're doing. That is not how Reinhardt's shield works. That is not how Reinhardt works. You do not stand here and go, I'm going to stand here for my team to shoot from behind me. You don't stand here and go, I'm going to stretch my shield out for my team to shoot from behind. It is very rare that you do either of those things. The only times you'll do those is during stabilizes or when you specifically want to help your team clear an angle. That should 95% of the time not be how you use your shield. I'm serious. Okay. So let's move on. And for this next piece, what I want to cover is I want to cover cover. So you are specifically using your shield from cover to cover. So I just covered you're not using your shield for your team. Yeah, that's too much use of the word cover. You're going to use your shield to go, hey, I'm here, I have my corner. Now I want to get to the enemy team or I want to get to the next set of cover. So I go shield up, walk, use my shield, spend my shield resource to get to here. And this is my new corner. And now I'm defending against the team from here. That's fine. Or if I'm the attacking team, I have this set of cover. I put my shield up, and I walk to here. And this could be my new set of cover. With this team here, maybe not, but pretend that the team is further back. You're using your shield to get from one place that you want to be that has natural cover to another set of natural cover. You are not using your shield to go, hey, I'm at this place with natural cover, and I would like to get to here and just stand here and then do the little Rhine dance. We do not like the Rhine dance. We do not exist. We do not stand in the open with our shield, except for very specific purposes. We use our shield to get from cover to cover. And if our team happens to hop along for the ride and we call it a rotation, great. But we're using the shield because we need to get from one spot to another because we don't have very good range. Or the other option is we are using our shield specifically to go from cover to enemy. Or enemy to cover. I don't care which one. Either of those, perfectly fine. Totally fine to go, hey, we have our shield, we are at our corner, we have our full shield because we've been using the corner, not our shield, while we've been here. We put our shield up and we advance to the enemies, and then we swing at our enemies, and that's fine. Totally fine to go, we go cover to enemies, or hey, we're fighting the enemies, we've fallen behind too much, we lost people, I'm trying to back out, holding my shield up to go from enemy back to cover, and I can put my shield back down. Again, that is not, I'm fighting the enemies, we lost people, now let me back up to on top of the cart and then do the Rhine dance or something. No, that's not what we're doing. We're going from enemy to cover with our shield, or from cover to the enemy with our shield. Okay, the last real use is going to be to stabilize. There are plenty of situations where you as Reinhardt will go, hey, I'm taking damage, I'm brawling with another Reinhardt, I'm swinging into a Reaper, I'm swinging into a Zarya, whatever, and then my shield goes up, okay? And the reason your shield is going up is because you've taken damage. Maybe you've run out of armor, maybe you've just eliminated their Reinhardt, but you have 100 HP. Doesn't really matter. The way the fight is going, you go, hey, I now need to get healed back up. I need to minimize the damage that's coming into me by putting my shield up. And I don't have cover, so I'm just putting my shield up while my team heals me back up. But again, that's not, oh, I'm here, I'm being a firing platform for my team. I was just swinging at enemies. I was just swinging at this Zarya, and now I'm down to 200 health. I'm going to put my shield up. I'm putting my shield up and blocking out this Widow, for example, while what do we have here? While my Anna heals me back up to 300, 350 HP, and then I'm willing to take another swing or another 2 swings and then put my shield back up to get healed back up. So again, that is not I am standing in the open with my shield up just because hey, I was here, I decided to do this with my shield up. That is I am putting my shield up specifically to let my supports catch back up on my health. Maybe because we got an elimination, maybe because I just didn't like how the trades went, maybe because I'm now out of armor and I want to stay in armor range so that the healing is more efficient. Any of those are fine. And then the fifth thing I'm going to cover here, and I'm going to cover it with an asterisk because it's kind of the exception to what I said earlier, which is your shield is just for you. And that is going to be clearing angles or snipers. Really applies to angles in general, but there are situations where you're going to go, hey, the opponents are shooting us from this way, and I don't like it. So you know what? I'm going to stand here, and I am going to put my shield up just real quick for my Zarya or my Anna or whoever to real quickly force this widow to leave. This widow that took this angle, take a quick shot or two at her from behind my shield. She leaves, and now I'll put my shield down and go right back to here, and we'll do the normal thing. But you sometimes have to do this with snipers like widows, ashes that have really aggressive angles. This is not your default. This is specifically to clear really high threats, like, oh, hey, there's a widow right there, or, oh, hey, an ash showed up over here. There's multiple directions that we're threatened from, even though we had good cover here. Now we'll just turn, so this isn't threatening us anymore because we had cover, and we'll let our teammate use our shield, our temporary cover, to real quickly do a shot or two to make someone leave. That's just if they're alone, unsupported. If they have a bunch of support, they go like, hey, this is a 3-3 split, that's not going to work. That's not something you can do. You're instead going to have to commit over here. But if, say, there's an unsupported widow, ash, whatever over here, sure, you can go, I am going to let my team use my shield just this once as a firing platform to make this person leave. And then once this person leaves, I can go, okay, how do I want to take this fight? But it is not generally a firing platform for your team to group up behind and shoot at the enemy team, or for you to hope your team is going to group up behind and fire at the enemy team. Okay, so I know I have said some things that might be controversial to hear, might not be what people expect, especially lower on the ladder for how Reinhardt is played. Your shield is for you. It really is. Firestrike should mostly just be played from corners, and Reinhardt is an absolute monster at enforcing corners. And from those corners, he gets to preserve shield, he gets to throw fire strikes. You see how those all tie together, how that all works? Okay. I hope that's been helpful. If you guys have questions, you can throw them down in the comments below. If you are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that really does help me out quite a bit. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.